And I think of all the things that you're doing. In my head I paint a picture. Since I come on home, well, my body's been a mess. I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over? Stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Did you have to go to jail? Was your house up for sale? Did you get a good lawyer? Did you help catch a tan? I hope you find the right man who'll fix it for you. Are you shopping anywhere? Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Why don't you come on over, Valerie?
Join us as we celebrate our most beloved airplane of the jet age, the 747, the Queen of the Skies. We honor our customers through the years who brought this magnificent feat of engineering to passengers around the world. Beginning with the first order from Pan Am and through the generations, the 747 changed our world, connecting people and cultures in profound ways, taking passengers to places and experiences they had only dreamed of, and delivering cargo that both enriched and saved lives. Each flag represents a customer that took delivery, from the first in 1969 to today. The flag design shows the livery that was on the first 747 delivered to each customer. Today, we pay tribute to an airplane that started with a mission and became an icon. Thanks to every customer, every engineer and mechanic, every supplier, every support person and flight crew, every passenger, and every admirer who stood in awe and watched the world's first jumbo jet take to the sky and conquer it. We honor you, your stories, your history, your triumphs.
around the world. Please welcome Chief Executive Officer of Boeing Commercial Airplanes, Stan Deal.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Everett, the factory that built the 747, a plane that changed the world forever. I want to welcome all the honored guests here. We have a long lineup, a numerous lineup of customers, of our suppliers, our partners along this journey, and most important, our workforce, who brings these incredible airplanes together to the skies. A couple special welcomes. We have two very important families, the Boeing family here today and the Sutter family. The Boeing family representing our founder, Bill Boeing, and the Sutter family, who we widely recognize Joe Sutter, the founding father of the 747. And it was these two leaders that brought a set of values, the values of safety, equality, integrity at every step of the way through their acts, that brought this 47 to bear, that has changed the world. We'll never forget that. I also want to thank our president and CEO, Dave Calhoun, and the chairman of the company, Larry Kellner, for being here today. And I'd really extend just a warm welcome to the thousands that are in the audience here, but also the many thousands that are listening live as we webcast this around the globe. Today, we're taking you through a journey of the decades of the 747. It already started with the procession of the flags, and I want to pay a special thanks to those last two flags. It was the start of the program with Pan Am, and you may have noticed the flag bearer was Charles Tripp. He is the grandson of Juan Tripp, the founder of Pan Am. Very special. Thank you. And at the bookend, Atlas Air, which was represented by Captain Tom Vitz. He's the 747 chief pilot for that wonderful fleet, so the first and last customer. Now, we're going to take you through this journey of time. We started with the customers. Let's start with the first decade. And who better, somebody that we all know well. He was known as one of our chairmen and CEOs. I want to bring up Phil Condit. And Phil, please come up. I'm going to ask Phil, though, to turn the clock back from that chairmanship days to when he was 3 years in the company, a young, eager engineer, aspiring, and got assigned to the 47. Over to you, Phil.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And it's a particular honor for me to represent those people who brought this airplane to life, the Incredibles. There's a bunch of them sitting right over here. I'd like you to go back almost 60 years ago and think about the incredible thing that happened. And by the way, you're going to hear that word over and over again. Incredible. Forever incredible. Juan Tripp, head of Pan American. Bill Allen, the head of Boeing. Juan Tripp said in the mock-up of this airplane to Bill Allen, if you build it, I'll buy it. And Bill Allen said, if you'll buy it, I'll build it. That was the contract that set the 747 in motion. A handshake by giants. But it took a lot to get there. There had to be a new factory. 780 acres of forest. They moved about 4 million yards of dirt to level this and build a factory. The first parts came together in a factory that was not yet complete. An incredible effort by the people that built that factory and began the design of that airplane. It is amazing to me to think about the vision that Juan Tripp and Bill Allen had to create an airplane that has lasted better than half a century. That's amazing. It's incredible. Now, I've got enough memories of the 747 to fill a reasonably good-sized scrapbook. And I won't bore you with all of those stories, but maybe a few. As a young engineer, several of us decided that we'd come to Everett and see this airplane that we'd been working on, because we were down at Plant 2. And we drove up here and walked into this hangar, and I was amazed that the airplane wasn't very big. And then we started walking toward it. And we walked and we walked and we walked and we walked, and the airplane got bigger and bigger. And we realized that we were in this immense building a long ways away from that airplane. And just how amazingly big it was. Twice the size of any airplane that had been built before. I went to Moses Lake on the #1 airplane to make the very first takeoff at maximum gross weight, 110,000 pounds. We had to wait till 5 o'clock in the morning when it got cool enough to take off. We started the takeoff run, the airplane rotated, there was a very loud bang and flames out of #2 engine. Engine was shut down, we continued the flight, came back and landed. That's what flight test is about. That's how you figure out what needs to be fixed. There are a lot of those stories, but they all involve people. The people sitting out here, the incredible people who made that airplane a reality, an airplane that would last over half a century and will keep flying for many, many years ahead. So it's my honor to be here and say to those incredible people, thank you for what you did. So now it's a real joy to look back and see how this happened with a little bit of a video.
Come fly with me, let's fly away. If you could use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Come fly with me, let's float down to Peru. In Llama Land, there's a one-man band, and he'll toot his flute for you. Come fly with me, let's take off to the blue. Once I get you up there, where the air is rarefied, we'll just glide, oh, starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so near. You may hear the angels cheer, 'cause we're together, weather-wise.
That thing is just ridiculously easy to fly. It's just a pilot's dream.
All right. Phil, thank you so much for telling this decade of the experience. And on behalf of all of us at Boeing, we just want to use you as a symbol of the Incredibles, make a recognition. We have something very special. So we have an incredible team in Everett. We have the Incredibles in Auburn, and as they were machining, Auburn and Frederickson, as they were machining, they saved the last chips from ship 157 for 1,574. As a token of our appreciation, the recognition of the Incredibles represented here, which we'd like to all applause and say thank you for starting this program. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. You know, we all have our stories. I have a very brief personal story about the 747, and mine had flown the 47 many times in my career, traveling around the road, reaching out to customers. On this particular 747 flight, I booked Lufthansa. I'm on the upper deck, so I was lucky enough to get positioned on the upper deck in first class. And as I sat down, I realized I was sitting next to our customer. Klaus Nittinger was the executive at Lufthansa, and many of you may know Klaus. Klaus was instrumental in helping Boeing, through its product and invention, learn one thing: the voice of the customer. So for the next 8 hours, I got a lecture about the voice of the customer and how important that was to ensuring our products are right for our customer every time. Thank you. Play the video.
The first decade of 747 service began on January 22nd, 1970, when Pan Am's Clipper Young America departed New York's JFK Airport on her maiden flight bound for London. The 1970s were an exciting and challenging time for the program. A recession, followed by a fuel crisis, made for a bumpy beginning, but visionary airlines committed to the airplane and began to introduce it around the world. Some used it for its range.
Somebody's trying to make me stay, you know I
Others for its capacity.
Oh, big old jet airliner, don't carry me too far away. Oh, big old jet airliner, 'cause it's here and I've got to stay.
Many found unique ways to attract passengers. Among those savvy operators was Japan Airlines, which would go on to be the largest operator of passenger 747s.
I've got to go out and make my way. I might get rich, you know I might get.
The 747-200 was introduced in 1971 and soon included the first freighter, convertible, and combi versions.
Riding high, I got tears in my eyes. You know I got to go through hell before I get to heaven. Big old jet airliner, carrying me too far away.
Specialized use of the 747 began, highlighted by the first use of the airplane as the U.S. Space Shuttle carrier. Boeing even created a special performance version of the 747-100, the 747 SP, in 1975. This shorter fuselage provided greater range, a capability customers like Pan Am needed. By October 1975, the worldwide fleet had carried 100 million passengers. More than 400 747s had been delivered in that first decade, and more than 100 remained on the order book.
Please welcome to the stage Mr. Yuji Akasaka, Representative Director and President from Japan Airlines, and Carolyn Corvey, former Senior Vice President of Airplane Programs for Boeing Commercial Airplanes.
I was going to start with formal remarks, but all I can say is wow. This is amazing. And I truly am honored to be here to celebrate this historic occasion with Japan Airlines. Akasaka-san, thank you for your partnership and for joining us here today. You know, we all have special memories of the 747, and like perhaps many of you, mine was my first flight on a 747. I flew from New York to Narita. It was my first trip to Japan, and I flew there on Japan Airlines. When we landed, everywhere I looked, there was another 747. They were on the taxiway, they were on the runway, they were at all the gates. It seemed like there were hundreds of 747s at Narita, and many of them had the beautiful Japan Airlines Tsurumaru livery. You know, I was so proud to be a small part of something as amazing as this great airplane. And today, when we look back on the legacy of the 747, it was Japan Airlines who helped Boeing design and then deploy this game-changing airplane into worldwide service. Japan Airlines was founded in 1951, grew from a small domestic carrier to an international airline, first operating DC-6s, then DC-7s, then entering the jet age with DC-8s and 707s. International routes that would have been impossible a few years earlier were now becoming a reality. International passenger demand was beginning to grow. For Japan Airlines, there was one airplane on the drawing board they knew would enable them to achieve their vision of international affordable flight, the unique and very capable 747. Designs were debated, as they always are, deals were made, and contracts were signed. The airline invested in new hangars and facilities to prepare for the world's first jumbo jet. Japan Airlines leadership had demonstrated vision and commitment in becoming a very early customer of the 747. The leaders at Japan Airlines put their faith and their trust in Boeing and in what would become the Queen of the Skies. In 1970, the first Japan Airlines 747 entered service, flying the Tokyo, Honolulu, Los Angeles route. Once the 747 entered service, there was no looking back. Ultimately, Japan Airlines would operate 112 747s, more passenger 747s than any other airline. Over the years, Boeing and Japan Airlines have continued to work together through the ups and downs of the airline business, partnering through hardship and celebrating success together. As we look to the future, Akasaka-san, we are please accept our sincere gratitude for Japan Airlines' contribution to the success of the 747 program, to the success of Boeing, and to the success of the global airline industry. Just as the 747 set the stage for Boeing's long-term relationship with our customers, it also forged a new way of working with suppliers. In the early days of the program, no supplier better demonstrated this new way of working together than Pratt & Whitney. Please join me in welcoming Earl Axon, Vice President of Mature Commercial Engines at Pratt & Whitney. And thank you.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful to join Stan and the rest of the Boeing team, along with so many of our distinguished customers and colleagues, to celebrate a remarkable and truly iconic airplane. An airplane that has had a profound impact on connecting the world. Joe Sutter, father of the 747, would be proud. Pratt & Whitney and Boeing's relationship goes way back, starting with our respective founders, William Boeing and Frederick Rensselaer, who teamed up to form the United Airplane and Transport Corporation in 1929. Over the course of long-standing relationships, Boeing and Pratt & Whitney have worked together on some amazing programs, not the least of which is the 747, the world's first wide-body airliner. Pratt & Whitney took a big bet on the 747 platform with its JT90 engine. Over 50 years ago, our JT90 engines were developed specifically for the 747 and powered them from the start. Later, our PW4000 94-inch engine and our PW901A APU powered the 747-400 variant. Of the 1,500 plus 747s produced, Pratt & Whitney engines powered nearly half, collectively logging more than 200 million engine hours and over 40 million cycles. In fact, our Pratt & Whitney Canada business operation operates the last two in-service 747 SPs in the world at our state-of-the-art flight test center in Maribel, Canada. These aircraft, which are powered by JT90 engines, play a critical role for the flight testing of the engines of our future. The 747 fleet represents what a group of smart, motivated individuals inspired by Joe Sutter's vision can accomplish when they set their minds to something. The 747 is the result of collaboration and partnership, hard work and determination. It was a feat of engineering and technology. And it's because of the dedication of our people across companies, across states, that we were able to deliver a product with the staying power of the 747. Now, 53 years after the first aircraft was delivered to Pan Am, here we are, witnessing the delivery of the very last 747 to our friends at Atlas Air. Although it's bittersweet, I'd like to thank Boeing for partnering with Pratt & Whitney to power your aircraft way back when, and for your continued partnership now and in the future. I'd also like to thank Pratt & Whitney's customers, suppliers, and the teams who made today and the last 50-odd years possible. We look forward to supporting your ongoing success.
By 1980, two major models of the 747, the 747-100 and the 747-200, were in service. November of 1980 saw the rollout of line number 500, a 747-200 Combi. Development of the newest version, the 300, was soon to follow with an order from Swissair in 1980. Flight testing began in 1982, and the first delivery followed in 1983. This version offered an expanded upper deck that allowed for more seats as passenger demand continued to grow. By 1984, Boeing was developing what would become the most advanced wide body in the world, the 747-400. This model increased range while decreasing fuel consumption. Using electronics, the new flight deck design reduced dials, gauges, and knobs from 971 to 365. The flight deck crew was also reduced from 3 to 2. Almost 700 747-400s were ultimately delivered, with the first going to Northwest Airlines in 1989.
Please welcome John Roundhill, former Vice President of Product Strategy and Development.
Thank you, everyone, and good afternoon. By the 1980s, there was really no question about it. The 747 had reshaped commercial aviation and earned its place in the history books, but it had so much more ahead of it. The 47 program literally created or changed communities of people around the world. The first 747 community that comes to mind, of course, is the passengers, the traveling public. All of a sudden, people could fly in an incredibly roomy airplane that gave them the impression of their living room taking off with 360 of their closest friends. The second 747 community can be summarized as the operators of the 747. Many of whom are represented here today. The airlines and the freight operators banded together to bring the 747 to all corners of the globe. And in addition, they provided the feedback that constantly improved the airplane. And for that, we at Boeing sincerely thank them. A 747 community that is very close to my heart are the designers and the builders of the 747, this remarkable airplane. The Incredibles not only created the 747, but took it upon themselves to pass what they had learned to the next generation of engineers, mechanics, managers, service people, and marketeers. As a result, the next generations of airplane people stood on their shoulders. How did this really work, the passing of the torch? If I can get personal for just a moment, I could use Joe Sutter and myself as an example. After Joe retired in 1986, he became a close friend and a mentor as we worked to consider and implemented our commercial airplanes product strategy. It's obvious that Joe was clear in his recommendations, if you knew him, but also he encouraged us that it was a new generation's watch. I remember well a visit to the boardroom of a key Asian customer where Joe sat on the airline side of the table, while our Boeing people were on the other side, as we discussed the future variant possibilities of the 747. So there was Joe sitting next to the CEO of that airline. And he explained to his friends, the customers, that he was there to make sure that his successors presenting that day got the message just right. Thanks, Joe. A final community we can mention is the broader local community. The 747 reached deep into the personal narratives as Boeing employees never shied away from community and involvement. If you went to school in this region, you were touched by Boeing and the 747, possibly through classroom volunteers, donations, notebooks, backpacks, funding for special programs. The team provided food for the hungry, built shelters for the homeless, enhanced medical facilities, cleaned highways, so much more. Our veterans, our families, our kids, our elderly were lifted up. Because part of having the honor of working on this program and our others is a deep sense of responsibility that leads folks want to give back, not just as a company, but as individuals, through corporate giving programs or our own personal pursuits. So whether it's money or it's time, the 747 team stepped up to help those in need. But for all those product achievements, It has always been the spirit of the team that has been the most gratifying to me. Yes, the 747 is a great product, unparalleled, but that's only because of the great people dedicated to working together, from our Boeing team to our customers, to our suppliers and passengers around the globe. We are united in our determination to care for one another, and that is what I see when I look up and find a 747 overhead. Thank you.
The 747 had established itself as the flagship airplane. From government leaders to international carriers, it was the ultimate symbol of status and achievement. It had been memorialized in song and in the hearts of aviation enthusiasts around the world.
Did you meet your fortune teller? Get it off with no propeller. Do it up, it's non-stellar. Not afraid to finally smell her. Pick it up, no, not too strong for you. Take a piece and pass it on.
The 747-400 had rolled out at the end of the 1980s. Orders topped 563. Customers took delivery of 663 747s from 1990 to 2010. Demand for the freighter variants grew substantially, and the 747 solidified its position as a preeminent mover of air freight.
Please welcome Senior Vice President and General Manager of Commercial Airplanes, Elizabeth Lund.
Our customer list continued to grow in the 1990s and 2000s. All told, 46 airlines, nearly half of all 747 customers, signed on for the 747-400. It was our best-selling version of the airplane by far, with nearly 700 sold. The most popular version was the passenger version, but the freighter had solid sales as well. With the 747, we said goodbye to the 3-person flight deck crew and hello to the modern 2-person crew. But the emergence of the 747 didn't diminish the important role of other 747 models. There was a pair of 747-200s that had a very special role that we want to take a moment to honor today. Let's start by having all of our veterans in the audience stand so that we could recognize you. Wow, your service is so greatly appreciated by all of us here at Boeing. Thank you. We hope that you all take special pride in the fact that the 747 has served as the Commander-in-Chief's primary air transport, Air Force One, since 1990 and will continue to do so for decades to come. Air Force One allows the President to be able to travel at a moment's notice. Whenever it arrives, it brings not just the person of the President, but it can bring comfort in times of trouble, clarity in times of uncertainty, and joy in times of celebration. You created a flying White House with both the comforts and necessities needed to ensure our government continues to operate even when the President is traveling. Our military sees that airplane with the same pride as Boeing. It is a technical marvel that commands attention wherever and whenever it arrives. Whether it is Air Force One or another special purpose airplane, we have seen how the 747 changes lives. We've read stories of families that flew to safety from war-torn countries on board 747s to start new lives. People who were able to find new hope for their businesses because of international air freight carried on board the 747, and deliveries of life-saving equipment and food supplies made available because of the 747. We've seen the airplane fitted as a firefighting machine. It's been used to carry the space shuttle, and it's being used today to support commercial space launch vehicles. So we're seeing a send-off today, but we all know that the 747 will remain in service and continue to inspire all of us for a very long time.
By the end of the 2000s, Boeing was wrapping up production of the 747-400, focusing on freighters. Work began on yet another generation of the airplane, the 747-8 Intercontinental and the 747-8 Freighter. Designed to be quieter, more economical, and more sustainable than previous 747s, this version of the airplane also included the first stretch of the fuselage, giving operators even more seating and freight space.
You can move a mountain, you can break rocks, you could be a master, don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you're gonna find.
Even though it was clear that the legendary line was beginning to wind down, the dedicated team of professionals made sure that the final 747s built had the same care and attention as all that came before, from the Incredibles first to the always Incredibles last.
And the world's gonna know your name. You can go the distance, you can run a mile, you can walk straight through hell with a smile. You could be a hero, you could get the gold, breaking all the records they thought they never broke.
While we celebrate this last airplane, the worldwide fleet of 747s will continue to fly for many years to come.
Cause there's gonna be standing in the Hall of Fame, and the world's gonna know your name, cause you're born with the brightest flame, and the world's gonna know your name, and you're the honor Hall of Fame.
And along with us on the 747-8 journey is our customer Lufthansa. You've already heard me talk about the importance of listening to the voice of the customer. This was one of those customers that made a difference to the product design. This was a customer that had flown the legacy of the 47. And through the persistence of our team, Scott, others in this audience, they finally convinced Lufthansa to join in on the 747-8i. And for this and their persistence in helping shape future, I want to introduce the CEO of Lufthansa, Carsten Spohr. Carsten?
Thank you. Stan, thanks. And standing here looking at this huge hangar and feeling the power of Boeing, I need to mention that every large company has weaknesses. And our soft spot in Lufthansa is that we just fall in love with Boeing designs very easily. And then when we get excited, we sign to be a launching customer. We did that on the 737, and after that we were the launching customer for the 747 in Europe. And then we were the first and launching customer for the freighter. And then indeed you convinced us, we convinced you to move the dream on with the 747-8. And I must say, we just love that airplane. We do as an operator. Our customers love the airplane, our crews love the airplane, and even our controllers love the airplane. It's 10% larger, 20% less emissions, 30% less noise. And I must admit, even I love it personally. When I realized I had to come to the West Coast for this event, there was only one way to travel, to take our 747-8 yesterday from Frankfurt to San Francisco to arrive here in style, in the nose of this wonderful airplane. But I also remember my very first time I flew to the US, also to San Francisco. Same flight number, LH454. I came here as an exchange student, also in a 747. In those days, back of the bus, and it wasn't even the real back of the bus because it was a combi, so I was in the middle, I didn't realize it. And things have changed since then, not just in my life. But when I came here for this country the first time and fell in love with the 747 and with this country, the 747 represented in a way everything this country is about. Pride, strength, engineering. And my love has lasted until today in many regards. And therefore, dear friends, the 747 has a very special place, not just in my heart, but in the heart of everyone at Lufthansa. For Lufthansa, in the early 70s, to be the first 747 operator in Europe meant for us we were back with the grown-up airlines after these difficult years after World War II. The customer experience is simply great on every version, in every aspect when you fly a 747. And as I said, passengers love it, crews love it, and by the way, spotters love it too, because especially the 747-8 is just so damn good looking. That's for you. So that's why we at Lufthansa are currently looking into another upgrade of the 747-8 in all classes to fly this amazing airplane way into the next decade, including the amazing first class in the nose. And it's something we are proud of, that we will be representing this airplane for many, many more years. And as I mentioned, the 747 is a symbol for many, many things. And above all, I think it's a symbol for the world, which the 747 has made substantially smaller. And by doing that, by making the world smaller, the 747 has also played a key role in making this world more peaceful. And that's very important in days like this. So on behalf of more than 110,000 people in Lufthansa, thank you all for your contribution in making this dream of the 747 come true and allowing us at Lufthansa to be part of it for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Karsten. My own first flight as a child, something I'll never forget, was aboard a 747 on my way to Disneyland. You can then imagine what an honor it was for me to be asked to lead the 747-8 program through the end of its development and into its introduction into service. The legacy of this program was top of mind, day in and day out, as we worked through many challenges and achieved many milestones. We do this work for our customers, each and every one of them. And no tribute to the 747 would be complete without a focus on what the freighters have meant to the customer and to our programs. And to help tell that story, I have the pleasure of asking you to welcome Bill Moore, President of Aircraft Maintenance and Engineering from UPS, to the stage.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am honored to represent UPS and our 500,000 employees worldwide as we celebrate the legacy of the Boeing 747. Every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, a UPS jet is in the air somewhere in the world. The 747 has been the connective tissue of our global network, helping connect our customers and giving them an opportunity to compete on a global stage. And the 47 will continue shrinking the globe over the next 40 years. This iconic aircraft has played a significant role at UPS. UPS purchased its first 6 747-100s in 1984. They were operated by a vendor until UPS launched its own airline in 1988. Today, as our airline celebrates our 35th anniversary, we're one of the world's largest operators of Boeing 747s. Our UPS employees are proud to operate and work on the 47. Our aircraft maintenance technicians want to work on the Queen of the Skies. Our mechanics are proud to maintain the Jumbo. Our crew members bid to fly the airplane just so they can say they've flown the 747. She's that kind of airplane in our industry. I've been in aviation for more than 30 years, and this aircraft still makes me stop and look at her every time, especially when she's taking off and landing. The 747 is majestic. She's unique. She commands attention. When you see a 747, you stop and watch it, mesmerized by her size. When you look at a 747, you know this majestic plane has the heart of a freighter. The cockpit sits 3 stories up, out of the way of the massive cargo bay. It's uniquely suited for our mission, and we've had some unique missions around the world. We've moved 4 of the world's heaviest fish, whale sharks, from Taipei, Taiwan to Atlanta's Georgia Aquarium on a 747 Classic. We transported an abandoned polar bear cub on a 747-400 from Anchorage to Louisville, Kentucky, where she now resides at the Louisville Zoo. And we've even moved an army of 2,200-year-old Chinese terracotta warriors on a 747-400 from Shanghai, China to Ontario, California. Now, I know the other cargo carriers here will have their own stories of the livestock, the big items and the small, that have traveled safely in the 747, connecting economies and cultures. However, when I think of all of our UPS deliveries, it's our healthcare deliveries that stand out for me. The 747-8 has played a vital role behind the scenes to deliver what matters, like vaccines and other critical healthcare packages. This airplane that you built has allowed UPS to deliver life-saving medicines around the world. During the pandemic, the 747-8 played a key role in delivering more than 1 billion COVID-19 vaccines to people, ultimately saving lives and families. The Queen of the Skies legacy is storied and world-changing. On behalf of cargo carriers everywhere and on behalf of the entire UPS team, I'd like to thank all of you who had a hand in creating and supporting the 747 over the years. You made a difference to our company and our industry and the world as a whole in ways we can only touch the surface today. To commemorate this special event, UPS plans to honor the UPS and Boeing 747 legacy by installing this decal on our last 747-8 delivery. Thank you.
Thrilled to have been asked to lend my voice to this great occasion, but just sometimes, you know, you just have to be live. Thank you. Thank you so much. Are you jet happy? Okay, may I ask a personal question before we go on to the more formal speech? How many in the audience have actually flown on a 747? Please raise your hand. Yeah! Yes! Like a 747. Awesome. Okay, well, you know, a recording just wasn't enough to share with you how much I love this airplane, and I appreciate your work. We've walked through the decades together, headed the stories of how this airplane has made a difference on a personal level and a global level, and is even helping to reach into space. So I had to be here in person because as a pilot, I know how great this plane is to fly. My personal story, if you don't know it, I'll tell you now. The 747-400. I worked for Qantas Airlines for 17 years as an ambassador and a pilot for the VIP passengers and the executives, including the chairman of the board and the president of that airline, in my personal 707. However, Qantas would not formalize this contract unless I went to school at the Qantas 747-400 school in order to be trained to fly these very VIPs. So I can assure you that it was the toughest program any commercial pilot will have ever had to endure. But after a month of training in Seattle and Australia, I earned my wings and I experienced the most well thought out and safest aircraft ever built. It was a pleasure to learn the details of this extraordinary aircraft and something that made my Boeing 737 training a breeze. And now that I have to thank every engineer, every mechanic, every support person who made all the 1,574 747s. You are awesome. And even when you understand the science behind flight, there's nothing like seeing a 747 take flight to remind you that there's also magic here. She's a great airplane, and I'm looking forward to many years to come flying with her. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Thank you for really flying Boeing. This is what it means to fly, to be a pilot. So we're
the 707, the 737, and the 747.
Keep flying them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. One more hand for John. All right, at this time, I want to welcome to the stage another John. The John Dietrich. He is the president and chief executive officer of Atlas Air Worldwide and the customer for the last 747. Come on up, John. Thank you. Now, John, before you get started, it just occurred to me that
I have to follow John Travolta.
You have to follow John, and so do I.
Okay.
And we're going to look kind of substandard to him, but there is one guest that's going to bring the house down. It's a guest we haven't brought out yet, and that is the guest of honor, the Queen of the Skies. So with that, everybody bundle up. It's going to get a little cold, but let's see the entrance of the Queen of the Skies. Bells are okay. Thank you. Hey, if we could, Marks, if we could zoom the camera one more time on the nose of the airplane. We thought to the Sutter family, we thought we'd give Joe another ride around the world as he looks down on us. So thank you. Got it.
Thank you, Stan, and good afternoon, everybody. And Carson, you were absolutely right. She's a darn good-looking airplane. So, look, it's an incredible honor for me to be here today for this milestone occasion in aviation history. I'm very proud to represent the more than 5,000 employees of Atlas Air. We all share in a deep admiration for today's guest of honor, the awe-inspiring Queen of the Skies. To see our aircraft on this big stage is a very proud moment for all of us at Atlas Air. Our company's history and our success is directly linked to the 747 platform. Our founder, Michael Chowdhury, launched Atlas Air over 30 years ago with a single 747-200 freighter. Since then, we became, and still are, the world's largest operator of 747 aircraft. We've got 56 of them. Over the years, we've spanned the globe with nearly every model of the 747, operating over 100 different tail numbers into more than 800 airports in over 170 countries. We're also proud to be the sole operator of Boeing's 4 747 Dreamlifters in support of the 787 Dreamliner production, one of which you saw out on display earlier today. With such a deep history in the 747 platform, it's only fitting that Atlas Air is taking the last one ever to be built. Some may say there's no greater freighter than the 747, and I certainly agree. It has tremendous payload and range and a nose loading capability that is simply unmatched. The 747-8 variant also supports Atlas's and Boeing's commitment to the environment with significantly improved fuel efficiency and substantially reduced carbon and noise footprint. Through the years, we've carried everything and anything that can be carried on a 747, from race cars to race horses, rocket parts to satellites. I'm not sure about large fish, but small fish. And all forms of electronics, perishables, and critical medical and pharmaceutical products. Simply put, the 747 does it all. And beyond what we carry is who we carry for. This aircraft will be operating on behalf of Apex Logistics, a Kuehne+Nagel company. And in addition to Apex and Kuehne+Nagel, we're very proud to host a few of our many customers here today, including Amazon, DB Schenker, FedEx, Flexport, NCA, and Qantas. And we're also very proud to be the largest provider of commercial airlift to the U.S. military, carrying both troops and cargo. The 747 was always there to answer the call for the U.S. military in Iraq and Afghanistan, and most recently with the Ukraine support missions. It is the backbone of this critical work. And as our logo on the tail illustrates, Atlas truly carries the world. And we do so thanks to Boeing. From Joe Sutter and the Incredibles, who turned a dream into a reality, to the employees who continue this great legacy today, we want to thank you for your continued commitment to safety, quality, and innovation, as well as your commitment to the environment. The impact of your work continues well beyond the production lines. It has fueled childhood dreams and career ambitions, while at the same time driving global economies and supply chains. I'd like to personally thank Dave Calhoun, Stan Deal, Ihsan Moner, Brad McMullen, and Kim Smith for their leadership and support on our recent acquisitions. And thank you also to Don Foster, Jeff Edwards, Mike Wilson, and Chris Dwyer, who have been such strong partners on the Atlas account. Thank you all. And I want to particularly acknowledge Ray Connor, who needs no introduction here at Boeing. Ray sold us our first 747-8s back in, I think it was 2008, may have been 2006, before becoming CEO of Boeing Commercial Airplanes. Ray? Today we're proud that Ray is a board member at Atlas Air Worldwide, and he recently told me that one of the proudest moments in his career was when he was assigned to lead the 747 program and work together with all the Incredibles. So, look, we've heard so many stories today about the 747's impact, and as we take this final delivery, we look forward to the stories that are yet to be told. Today we celebrate not necessarily an ending, but a beginning as well. The beginning of another exciting chapter driven by the mighty Queen of the Skies, and I will say she is the biggest, baddest commercial aircraft that's flying out there. So thank you to Boeing, our customers, and all of our employees.
Please welcome to the stage David Calhoun, Chief Executive.
So if I could, one last point. I happen to have the absolute pleasure of flying her out tomorrow morning, and we have a special flight plan that we've planned, so hopefully we can come across on the screen. That's going to be our flight plan for tomorrow, the Queen of the Skies. So thank you all. Thanks, Dave.
Please welcome to the stage David Calhoun, Chief Executive Officer of the Boeing Company.
Thank you. Thank you.
John was good enough to show me that flight plan on his phone, and I felt for sure it was a good idea to put it up here. I'm going to be the briefest. Everybody's freezing. I was warned that I'd be at the end, and it was wise to wear a vest. This was a story of product legacy, and it's a story that is second to none. We all know it. My first introduction to this airplane was taking my brother from a household that has never flown, not one person in the household, taking my brother for the first flight of any member of our family to Kennedy, and go to the TWA terminal, look out the window, and this airplane's there. You cannot imagine for a kid in his early teens how big and how important and awe-inspiring it is. Never imagined then I'd be weaving my way in and out of the aviation industry forever, and that I would someday have an opportunity to work with all of you to do this. It's amazing. I want to thank the Incredibles. I want to thank every one of you who have touched this airplane. Touched it, thought about it, helped the people who touched it. I can't tell you how important it is to all of us, and it spells legacy. And if a company ever needed to stand tall on a legacy, it was the Boeing Company for the last 3 or 4 years, which have been tumultuous for all of us. I want to switch gears from product legacy for a second to cultural legacy. Leaders in the Boeing Company who continue to have visions, just like this one. The 777, the next airplane to dominate this space in the sky with 2 engines instead of 4, displaced all of its competition, just like that. And we haven't even introduced the best version of it yet. So what I wanted to do is speak directly to the leaders of Boeing who have inspired all of us, who were never afraid, ever. And I'm looking at people who I remember inspiring me and my team in the engine world to do special things every day, all day. Our commitment as a leadership team at Boeing is to maintain this innovation culture forever. And in the roughest of moments, we did. We didn't stop funding the future for a minute, not for a minute. The hangars are full of innovation. They are full. We have airplanes that will displace the 47 in the sky on delivery, and they will compete with it for 50 more years in service. Thanks to John and his team and all the great use cases that they create. I'm going to end it here. I want everybody to switch gears a bit and think about the future. Because of you, because of this incredible legacy you built, the foundation we stand on, the innovation that we have, the innovation that we're investing in, we're going to be doing these product legacy stories forever. We are. And trust that the leadership team at Boeing is standing behind that. We're committed to it, and we will forever. So thank you. And for all of you, here's to our future.
We'll wrap up and say fair skies and follow the winds to the Queen. As we turn the page today, we do not close this book. It's just a chapter. We'll have another chapter of the 747. This airplane will be supported for decades to come, I promise you, as our customers. And we'll stand on the shoulders of the giants who created the greatness of Boeing, to continue this journey, as Dave said, to continue to innovate. So with that, thank you. Please go home safe, and to thank you to our team who made this possible. Enjoy.